Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Together we chant chapter 8 of chapter 9, verses 11 to 20.
अवजानन्ति मां मूढाः मानुषीं तनुमाश्रितम् परं भावमजानन्तः मम भूतमहेश्वरम् मोघाशामोघकर्माणः मोघज्ञानाविचेतसः राक्षसीमासुरीं चैव प्रकृतिं मोहिनीं श्रिताः महात्मानस्तु मां पार्थ दैवीं प्रकृतिमाश्रिताः भजन्त्यनन्यमनसः ज्ञात्वा भूतादिमव्ययम् सततं कीर्तयन्तो मां यतन्तश्च दृढव्रताः नमस्यन्तश्च मां भक्त्या नित्ययुक्ता उपासते ज्ञानयज्ञेन चाप्यन्ये यजन्तो मामुपासते एकत्वेन पृथक्त्वेन बहुधा विश्वतो मुखम् अहं क्रतुरहं यज्ञः स्वधाहमहमौषधम् मन्त्रोऽहमहमेवाज्यम् अहमग्निरहं हुतम् पिताहमस्य जगतः माता धाता पितामहः वेद्यं पवित्रमोङ्कारः ऋक्सामयजुरेव च गतिर्भर्ता प्रभुः साक्षी निवासः शरणं सुहृत् प्रभवः प्रलयस्थानम् निधानं बीजमव्ययम् तपाम्यहमहं वर्षम् निगृह्णाम्युत्सृजामि च अमृतं चैव मृत्युश्च सदसच्चाहमर्जुन त्रैविद्या मां सोमपाः पूतपापाः यज्ञैरिष्ट्वा स्वर्गतिं प्रार्थयन्ते ते पुण्यमासाद्य सुरेन्द्रलोकम् अश्नन्ति दिव्यान् दिवि देव भोगान्.
In the 15th verse, we studied about the Jnana Marga. The Jnana Marga is the most powerful method of self-development, of self-purification, of spiritual growth, of enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. It is the most powerful method because it uses the subtlest equipment. We all have certain equipment. All of us have this: body, mind, intellect. In comparison, body is gross, mind is subtler, intellect is subtlest. Now, when you use the subtlest equipment you have, the growth that you can get is the highest, obviously. In any field, it is like that, isn't it? When you use the subtlest equipment, you get the highest returns. The problem is people don't have access to that subtle. For instance, if I had to walk and go to South Mumbai, it would take me a few hours. If I take a car and go, oh, that'll also take me a few hours. Okay, let's say I walk to Mumbai, South Mumbai, go right down to Nariman Point from Santa Cruz. And so how many hours would that take me? 5 hours? How much time would that take? If I took a car from Santa Cruz to walk down to Nariman Point.
Oh yeah, at least 6 hours at least.
6 hours, okay. So 6 hours walking from Santa Cruz to Nariman Point. 6 hours. Okay. If I take a car and go, I'll take maybe 3 hours, 2 hours to go there. But what if I take a plane and go? Suppose I take a chopper and I go. That'll take me 5 minutes. Right? So the subtler the equipment, the quicker it is. Obviously. If I have to even kill somebody with a knife, horrible example, but with a knife, it is more ineffective. With a gun, it's way more effective. And if I have to throw a nuclear bomb, now it's very effective, isn't it? So the subtler the equipment I use, the more effective it is in whatever I choose to do. Now you may say, then why is it that we don't use the subtlest equipment? Why don't I take a chopper and fly to Nariman Point instead of taking the car? I don't walk to Nariman Point, I'll take the car. So why would I take the car and not a chopper?
We should have access to the satellite equipment.
Yeah, correct. I don't have a chopper. If I was Ambani, maybe I would have one and then I could go in 5 minutes. But I don't have one. So how do I use it? Right? Therefore, it's always said that you use what you have. Because suppose I don't even have a car, and it'll be quicker for me to just walk to Nariman Point than to try to first get a car and this and that. You just walk, you'll reach there. Right? Now, suppose I do have a car, then I can start organizing to buy a chopper, earning so much money so that I'll have a chopper or whatever, or hire a chopper, rent a chopper. In so much time, my car will take me there. So therefore, we don't make a comparison between the paths, because though it is true that Jnana Yoga will take you quickest, you have to have access to that equipment. Now, you don't have to start building much. If you're a Karma Yogi, for instance, you don't have to become a Jnana Yogi. If you're a Bhakta, you don't have to become a Jnana Yogi. But at least this much we all can do. We all have an intellect, right? So as much as we have, let us use. So at least that amount we are good. That part we are doing to do fast. The rest we don't have, so we'll use what we have. So Jnana Marga is the subtlest thing. Jnana Marga will express in very different ways. The whole point of Jnana is that you've just understood something. Now, since you've understood it, anybody can ask you any question about it. You can answer it. Anytime a situation comes about, you know what to do with that situation. You can understood the concept itself, which is very different from being told what to do. Suppose I teach somebody cooking by saying that, you know, you have to make this dish by putting kanda, and then you have to put tomato, and then you have to put whatever. So that person knows that dish and can only make that dish. But a person who's understood the concept of cooking, what can go, what cannot go, what takes how much time and all that, can make a vast variety of dishes. So Jnana is like that. You understood the concept, you can handle all sorts of things because the concept is clear. Now, how do you make that concept so clear to people? It is a method of Jnana, is you confuse them. Because only by confusing people, sometimes you get them to understand. It's a method that Krishna uses quite widely. He loves to confuse us. So if you look at his description of Jnana Yajna, he says, you worship me, means you pursue me. And what is that me? It is one. Okay, all right. God is one. Chalo, itna clear hai. As distinct. Wait a second. If it is all one, then how is it distinct? And then he says as manifold, as the many. 1 second. पहले तो one बोला, अब many बोल रहे हो. Make up your mind. Are there many gods or one God? Is it one or is it distinct? And then facing all directions. What is facing all directions? So you have to be taught the book because it will confuse you. So one means there is only one reality. Distinct means that one reality is distinct from anything you perceive, feel, or think. It is different. Manifold means that which you see, that which you perceive, that which you feel, and that which you think is anyway the same Lord. And facing all directions means it is all pervading. It sounds too complicated, right? So take an example. Let us take gold in jewelry. All the gold in all the jewelry is one, correct? It is one. It is distinct. It is distinct from the jewelry. The bangle and the earring, all this nama rupa is distinct from the gold, correct? So it's different. It is one, but it is different. It is different from that jewelry, right? It is many. It is many. It is manifold. Means what? This bangle and earring and everything you are seeing is anyway gold only. It is facing all directions. Means in all the jewelry, gold is all pervading. There in all jewelry. Clear? I hope that is clear. So you can now understand that once you understand a concept, no matter how anyone asks the question, you'll know it. It's like understanding a riddle. When you got the whole concept, you get it. So it's very clear then, and then life changes immediately. The moment you get it, life changes. Okay, so we have some questions. Even emotion is subtle with regards to bhakti yoga. Deepa, I don't understand. Even emotion is subtle with regards to bhakti yoga. What do you mean by that?
Janki ji, you said in Jnana Yoga we are using the subtlest equipment.
Correct.
So in Bhakti we use emotion, right?
Right.
So even that is subtle.
That is subtle. That is subtler than the body. Body is gross, subtler than the body's emotion, and subtler than the emotion is intellect.
Okay. Okay.
So yes,
Yeah.
it
I
is
forgot the
subtler.
basics.
Yeah, the course is coming. Nidhi, what do you mean my subtlest equipment? Nidhi, are you here? Where is Nidhi? Is this your first class, Nidhi?
No, it's not my first class, Janki ji.
Okay, so you've been around for some time or
Yeah.
what? Been around for some time. So what do we mean by my subtlest equipment? So are you asking me what do we mean by my subtlest equipment, as in
Yes.
which is the subtlest equipment or why is it subtle?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Intellect, you said right now, na?
Yeah.
Subtlest.
Yeah. Is that what you're asking? Which is the subtlest equipment?
Yeah, and what do you mean by subtlest equipment? You have to apply your intellect in situations, is what you're trying to say?
No. Subtle is defined in Vedanta as that which pervades and controls. Okay?
Okay.
In Vedanta, everything is defined. We don't have to stress ourselves at all in this. It is the simplest subject. So, how do you know whether something is subtle or not? Is you apply the two tests of pervasiveness and control.
Okay.
The body is considered grossest.
Hmm.
Okay, mind is subtler than the body. Why do we say that? Because the mind controls the body and pervades it. Means all over your body, the mind exists and it
Right.
controls the body. Like, if
Correct.
you're very upset or something, it shows in your body.
Right.
So, you whatever. So it controls the body. It can make you ill also. It can make you, if your mind is away, your ears can't hear. So your mind controls and pervades the body.
Correct.
The intellect controls and pervades the mind,
Right.
because the intellect can control the mind.
Yes.
The mind, wherever the mind goes, the intellect can go, but the mind cannot go wherever the intellect goes.
Correct. Thank
So,
you so much.
so therefore, intellect is subtler than the mind.
Okay. Thank you.
Janki-ji, can you just repeat what you just said? The mind can go
The intellect can go wherever the
where
mind goes,
I lost you there. The intellect.
can go wherever the mind goes, but the mind cannot go where the intellect goes. In other words, your mind can go in
Okay.
any area which you know, right? If you know your family, your mind can go there. It means you can feel emotions for that. But you cannot feel emotion for something you don't know. So to know that new thing, the intellect will have to go there first. You must know it before you can feel for it, right? So the mind cannot go outside its boundary. Only the intellect goes into the areas unknown. So once the intellect has conquered it, the mind can go there. So now you know it. So now you can feel for it. But you cannot feel for it and then know it, because you don't know it. Then how can you feel for it? You don't know it exists. You don't know it. Clear? So the intellect can go wherever the mind can go.
Yeah.
And the intellect can also go into unknown areas. The mind can't do that.
Beautiful explanation, Janki ji. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Amazing, really. How simple you make things.
Thank you. Shilpa Kumar, what about people who are mentally disturbed? They are not able to adopt any form of yoga. How about people who are mentally disturbed? They are not able to adopt any form of yoga. Why would you say that, Shilpa?
Because like the mind is not in their control,
Hmm.
and because the mind is not in their control, they may not be able to appreciate either bhakti yoga or karma yoga. So like just like it's the subtlest form and therefore the most enabling,
Hmm.
can it also be the most disabling?
Wait, first let's understand this thing of yours about people who are mentally disturbed.
Yeah.
People who are mentally disturbed means what? That's you and I, right? All of us are mentally disturbed. Who's not
No,
mentally?
not like that. So that I agree. So maybe I mean like who are really
Post it. Shilpa,
yeah.
slow down. So
Yeah.
mental disturbance, one type of mental disturbance is like you and I, and all of us have mental disturbance. In other sense, we get agitated. There's another type of.
No, that I understand.
Hold it.
Okay.
Hold your horses. It's okay. Even if I'm saying something you already know, listen to it, because maybe It's going to connect to your question. Second type of mental disturbance we have is a clinical ailment. Okay, the person is ill. Just as this body has ailments, so too the mind has ailments. So the person is clinically ill. Now, just like if a person has got tuberculosis, you don't tell him to do karma bhakti and jnana. Similarly, when he's got a mental ailment, what will he do? He can't do it. It's like telling a person who's in ICU, go for a jog. It doesn't make sense. So, when you have an ailment, you require a medicine, right? You get malaria or something. You can't at that time say, okay, I have to do jnana yoga. Then you please take medicine for your ailment. Now, very often in our field, people don't make this difference, and I hope you, all those who attend this class at least, know that there are two separate things. There is one kind of sadness which you and I feel. There is one kind of agitation which you and I feel. We get upset, we get disturbed, we feel unhappy. Okay, that's one thing. There is another kind which is a clinical ailment. It's an illness. Now, that illness requires a medicine. Okay, that medicine is not part of philosophy. So, these people, what about the people who are mentally disturbed? There are two types. There's you and I, for whom all the yogas are applicable. And there are those who are ill, mentally ill, for which they require a medicine. They don't require a lecture bazi to them. They don't require us to give them jnana. That's why they sometimes get very fed up with you when you tell them, oh, you know, somebody, yesterday only somebody told me that something's wrong with their knees. And somebody told them, do positive thinking. That people gone mad or something? Something is wrong with your knees. You go to the doctor, you don't start doing positive thinking. Oh, you'll get healing, send healing thoughts. What do you mean send healing thoughts? Why don't you just see a doctor? Right? So we seem to just confuse the whole issue. Philosophy is addressed to people who are, what should I say? They are not suffering from some ailment, physical or mental. Because even if you're suffering from a physical ailment, now what are you going to get up and study? You're not going to be able to do that. And for those who are mentally disturbed or physically disturbed, means the body is disturbed, you have doctors, you have medicines for that. So they are not able to adopt any form of yoga, and they're not supposed to. Why would they? Imagine you got tuberculosis and you started doing hatha yoga. Like, why are you doing hatha yoga for tuberculosis? Why don't you take the medicine? Or wait, I am not commenting on how you cure it, because curing is some form of medicine. Is that clear? I don't know medicine. I haven't studied medicine. None of us, I think most of us, except for the doctors in our group, have not studied it. So it's not our field. So they can't use their equipment, because at the moment the equipment is under attack from germs, if it's physical, from chemicals, if it's mental, it's under attack. Okay, so they cannot use it. They are not supposed to use it. This is not me talking, please. This is our Shastras talking, because in Shastric language, it says that in the Ashubh periods, which you all have heard, you're not supposed to deal with spirituality. Have you all heard this? Whenever it's Ashuddh, then you're not supposed to deal with it. So ladies in their monthly cycles, death in the family, any type of mental disturbance has to not, you don't deal with spirituality in those times. They don't even let you go to the temple. These are all this. So people ask me, is it a law that women are not allowed to go to the temple? Is there something behind it? It's only very dramatically telling you that when the mind is disturbed, you will not be able to put in effort into self-purification. So just chill for that moment. That's all it is saying. However, if you are going through your monthly cycle or something and you're not disturbed about it, then the rule is not applicable. The rule is applicable to mental disturbance. So if you're highly mentally, I don't know, is Deepak there today in the class? Deepak, are you there? Where is Deepak? Is he there? Deepak Punwani, not there?
Not there.
Not there, okay. If he was there, I would have told him to tell the story about a particular person who was suffering from depression, clinical depression. Some fancy person, well-known person, tells them to do meditation, which is about the worst advice you can give. You know what that person eventually did? He jumped out of their house, her house, from the 3rd story. Now, after you've heard all these stories, people will still not learn. No, now you're very disturbed, no? Sit down and do meditation. You must be mad if you think so. Absolutely mad. So please, every one of us should know there are 2 different things. Anyway, meditation should not be done with any form of mental disturbance, whichever one you have. Doesn't matter which one you have. But getting disturbed people to meditate, especially when they're clinically depressed, this is akin to murder. Okay, so coming back. As one, as distinct, as manifold, as facing all directions. I hope it is clear. Anybody has a problem with this? Another question.
Jankuji,
Yeah, Anuja?
medicine is also gross and mental illness is subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Then how does gross work on the medicine work?
Okay, so mental illness is a disease, right? It's a disease, like any physical disease. It's a disease. This disease comes because of something, some object. In the case of, now this is not really my field, so I'm not really commenting on it, but a mental disease comes out of chemical imbalances or whatever is happening in the brain.
Right.
Right? So mind is subtler than the body. The brain is part of the body. So even if you have the most brilliant intellect, but if, let's say, you are suffering from malaria, you've got high temperature, all right, you've got really high temperature, and you are a brilliant intellect, will you be able to handle any situation that comes to you? So that doesn't mean your body is affecting the intellect. What it means is that the intellect is no longer able to manifest in this body, in the sick body. In the sick body means?
It can't function.
Yeah, it can't. Yeah, the intellect is remaining the same. It has not got affected. It's just not being able to manifest here.
Janki ji, may I say something? In fact, the intellect is manifesting because you're not doing your normal work. It's giving you the direction. The intellect is actually, if you're very ill and you don't do anything, that's using your intellect. If you were to be very ill and still go ahead and say, I'll do my normal day, that would be being stupid. Your intellect is, in a way, still in control of this situation.
Yes, but we're not. Yeah, correct. You're right there, but we're not referring to that.
In some, yes, that absolutely. No, I'm just agreeing with you and saying that it's not that the intellect stays subtle and stays in control of every situation.
Yes, but that's not the point we're discussing. What you're saying is true. Anuja's point is, how is the gross affecting the subtle? So the answer is that if you have 104 temperature and you are Einstein, you will not be able to do any work that Einstein is capable of doing. But that's not because his intellect is affected, but because there is no body to express that in. I hope that's clear.
Yeah.
Okay, so similarly in the mind, the brain has got all these chemicals doing gochi over there. So where is the mind supposed to express itself? It can't. But the mind has not been affected. It is the brain which is affected.
Okay.
All right. So Jnana Yagna is basically your capacity to see the oneness. This is the capacity that Jnana Yoga gives. If you can see the oneness, you're a Jnana Yogi. And he's told us, I think every book is currently telling us. You remember in chapter 18 of the Gita, we studied how Eka Pruthatvena, when in the many you see the one, that is Satvik Buddhi. You remember that? Satvik Jnanam. You remember that? What is Jnanam? It is the capacity to see the oneness and the difference. Everywhere he's told us that. Here also he says, worship me as one. Like people will say, oh, they keep doing this funny thing called comparing religions and all. Compare what does Quran say and what the Vedas say and what does Gita say and what does Bible say and what does Dharmapada say and all this sort of stuff. It's saying the same thing. What are you comparing? It makes no sense. It's saying exactly the same thing. So all of them are saying there is one. La ilaha illallah. Only one. Only one God. Everybody's saying that. Nobody's saying anything different. What is there to compare? They're saying exactly the same thing. And often in exactly the same words also. So there's only one God. Isn't that clear? There's one. So what is Jnana Yoga? Is that attempt to see that oneness in the most direct form, which is through your intellect. Now this oneness, when you see, it will manifest in the body as service. It manifests in the mind as bhakti. And in the intellect, it manifests as being able to see the whole picture. But it's the same basic understanding of oneness. Like, see the whole picture means you can amalgamate knowledge into principles. The capacity to do that is the brilliance of the intellect. Apart from taking care and medication, is it possible to help clinically people in a spiritual way, or else their human form gets wasted? Has it got something to do with past karmas too? Apart from taking care and medication, is it possible to help I suppose you mean clinically depressed people in a spiritual way? Yes, first thing is, of course, take care and medication. And the spiritual way, the only way you help everybody is you accept them for who and what they are. It's very, very difficult to do that when you live with a patient of depression or Alzheimer's or something like that. It's an extremely difficult thing. And that's where your intellect comes into play, because you learn life's most difficult lesson, that whatever they do has got nothing to do with me. This is life's most difficult lesson, and it's difficult to learn it. So you must give yourself that charitable view also. That I've come to a difficult portion in my studies. So you have to be charitable to yourself. The caregiver requires as much care as the patient. So you have to know all these things. And that's why there are support groups and all of that for people who are in such situations where they're giving care to chronically ill patients. So you have to have the same sympathy to the patient and to yourself. It's not easy. It's not easy maybe to meet a parent and know the parent doesn't know who you are, or to meet a spouse and have the spouse scream at you. It can be for no rhyme or reason. And so it's difficult, and you have to know that it is difficult and deal with your equipment and their equipment with the same degree of sympathy. And that's called absence of ego. To treat yourself as you would treat any stranger, no more, no less. But sometimes we abuse our own system. We're not supposed to do that. If you would not recommend this for another person, why are you doing it yourself? So, how can you help in a spiritual way? The spiritual way means what? Reduction of ego means what? Means I will be sympathetic towards you. I will be sympathetic towards me. I will understand the situation as it is, not as I would like it to be. So these are all the spiritual ways of doing it. It helps you deal with the situation. Or else there is human form gets wasted. This is ego. Why would we know which human form or any form is wasted or not? What knowledge do we have on that matter? So this kind of statement is ego. I have no idea what this person wants. I don't have any idea what this person needs. I don't know the grand scheme of things. And nothing in nature is wasted. Whatever it is, it has a purpose. I don't know that purpose. And I don't even need to know it. But for what am I to know what is your purpose? I know my purpose. Has it got something to do with past karmas? Everything is a result of past karmas. But past karmas, don't forget, everybody get used to this. Past karmas is today's vasanas. So don't keep worrying about the past, worry about today. Past karma means what? Where's the record of that past karma? That's your present vasanas. When these vasanas go away, there is no past karma. So forget this past karma story. You only know what you have to do today. Okay, so spiritual way of dealing with it, no ego. But if I say no ego, people go berserk and start saving the other person as if they take the responsibility. No, you're not take responsibility. You have to do your bit. No more, no less. And you give both sets of equipment, that one and yourself, the same importance. No more, no less.
Thank you.
Shilpa, but for the afflicted person, how do they improve their spiritual situation? They cannot. And it's not for us to know how they will be benefited. We cannot know this about anybody else. We cannot and we need not. For what do we need to know this? We know what we need to do. Let's just do it. How do they improve their spiritual situation? Very difficult. It depends, of course, on the degree. I'm talking about the cases which are now gone completely. Well, they can't. But depends on the degree. If you're 30% damaged means 30% is damaged, then you still have 70% to work with. But why are you worried about those people, Shilpa? They're no different from us. When we have, let's say, malaria or anything else, when the disease goes, they can do. The thing is, even the healthy people, those who don't have all that, are not worried about their spiritual situation. So why worry about a particular section? It's like saying, how will the Africans improve their spiritual situation? But what happened to the rest of the world? How does any one of us improve the spiritual situation? Is exactly the same. To the extent you have the equipment, you use them.
Ma'am, one question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ego is how how do we define ego as not focusing on the result, right?
No. Why don't just define it as not focusing? Ego means, okay, let's start from the beginning. You have a body, mind, and intellect. The body acts and perceives. It is propelled into this by your thoughts. Thoughts are classified. The thoughts which feel things, anger, greed, hate, love, whatever. I feel like doing something, I don't feel like doing something. Whims and fancies. This kind of thoughts are known as the mind. Those thoughts which are rational, discriminative, reason, judgment, these are known as the intellect. Those thoughts which claim these emotions and this reasoning as mine are called ego. Those thoughts which attribute these things to yourself are called ego. Therefore, ego and spirituality are diametrically opposed. They're inversely proportional. The more ego, less spirituality. More spirituality, less ego. Because your concept of claiming things as mine has reduced.
Claiming things as in
Now, suppose you start. You say, "I have a question." That means you're claiming the question, right? That's why in class we say, try not to say, "I have a question." Say your question, because you're claiming it yourself. This is mine. These kind of thoughts are known as ego.
okay, when Ganesh attaches himself to a certain thing, that becomes ego.
When the self attaches itself to Ganesh, that is ego.
Self is beyond, right? From what we saw the explanation.
Yes.
Then how will the self be attached to something? Self
It's
is not.
It's not.
I'm slightly confused.
Okay. So when you get an imaginary sense of I am Ganesh, that is called ego.
Oh, wow.
If you knew yourself for what you are, there's no ego. But when you say Ganesh is me, then that is ego.
Okay. Okay. It takes a lot of thinking.
It does. But basic facts at least should be right. Otherwise, what are we thinking of? What is ego? Ego is basically my misunderstanding myself to be this individuality. The moment I claim this individuality, that's ego. So therefore, even if you're seated on the seat of meditation, there is still ego. Until you realize, there's always ego. Realize means what? I know myself for what I am. I hope all that is clear.
Janki ji, may I ask one question with regard to the previous one?
Go ahead, Elsie.
This mental illness is a product of the malfunctioning of our brain. No? In that case, mental wellness also is the result of the biochemistry of brain.
Very interesting. Good question, Elsie. Though I don't know why we are discussing this in the middle of Jnana Yoga. I'm going to take this question up. We must understand two things, okay, as a principle. Two things. Okay. There is something called a cause and effect relationship. The reason I'm taking this question up is Elsie has brought it up, and I'm sure most of you would agree with her that you just walked yourself into a big conundrum, because if you claim mental illness is because of the chemicals, then mental wellness also should be chemicals. So why are you wasting our time with philosophy? Just give us the chemicals. So that's why I'm taking it up, because what she's saying could be often understood as a valid point. Oh, why am I taking up? Can anyone answer this point? But don't give a lecture. Huh? Give very briefly. Give me the principle involved.
Shilpa, as clinical psychologist.
What?
I'm speaking as clinical psychologist and addressing this.
Clinical or otherwise, tell us what is the answer if you know it.
When we, of course, there is a role of chemicals in it, definitely. But there are a lot of physicality involved, the physiology of the involved, and the experiences a person goes through is equal to any well-being or any illness. In that case,
that's not what we're talking. You have to follow the line of thought. You can say that the line of thought is incorrect, which is basically what your answer is right now. You can say that's incorrect. That mind is different from the brain. That's currently your answer, which is fine. I mean, it's perfectly all right to say that. But following the line of thought, suppose we've taken the stance that mental illness is disturbance in the brain, then is a mental wellness, just having the right chemicals. Vedanta's answer is no, it's not so. Now the question is, do you know the principle on which this is based?
Same. Can I say something?
Can I
Same
say
way
something
that
from
Wait.
experience?
I need to see, at least you all are going so fast, I cannot even see who said. Who said, can I say something?
I did, Harsimran.
Varsha, huh? Varsha, Marj, okay. Varsha, go.
just
Put
like
on your video when you want to speak so that I know that you want to speak.
just like you said that mental illness has two things. One is clinical mental illness, and the other is what you and I feel. Similarly, wellness also is similar. There is a clinical wellness which is brought about by the hormones or neurochemicals, and then there is the other which will take care of people like you and me, where philosophy will help us think right and take care of whatever sadness or mental unwellness. So again, just like unwellness is of two types, wellness is of two types.
Okay, interesting. Marj? You're muted, Marj. I can't hear you. Marj, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I'm talking from experience. My husband had a bipolar person, and the only treatment that worked for him was chemical, was given to him, and then he becomes absolutely normal. So there is an issue of chemical that is induced to the mind that brings people back to their normal self. That's all I wanted to add.
Yes, but that's not answering the question.
Yeah,
the question is, if we are accepting the illness comes out of the chemical, then the wellness should also come out of the chemical. And therefore, why are you wasting our time teaching us Vedanta? Just give us a few chemicals and we feel great. In fact, many people do take these chemicals that make them feel great, and those are called drugs, right? You take the drug and you feel great.
Yeah.
Right. So now wait. So please answer the question. Do not go here and there.
May I make an attempt?
Wait 1 second. 1 second. Let me just see what all is written here. Malti, when the brain produces the hormones, okay. Mental is based on clarity, okay. Intellect is more subtle than mind. Okay, but none of you are answering her question. She has a valid question. Please understand the question and then answer it. No wonder you all are not willing to go to group discussion, because people are not even registering the question. What is the question? I think I am going to forget the answer in all this. Acha, come on, Simran. Yeah, come to you, Ganesh.
Sure. So my take at it is that when it comes to illness...
Wait, stop. My take on this is unnecessary. Do not claim it as yours. The answer is right or wrong. It doesn't matter. Simran is of no importance in this answer. Right? Answer, you got a right answer, you got a wrong answer.
So when it comes to illness, it's more a function of our vasanas, our inherent qualities. And when it comes to wellness, it's we are making an attempt to rise higher from that illness. And in order to rise higher, we have to associate ourselves with some higher desire or cause. And that's where the philosophy of Vedanta comes in.
Yes, but we just said the illness was the chemical. So you just changed the point a bit. So stay on the same point. Yeah, Ganesh?
Gross affects gross. And subtle, you will require something more higher. And subtlest is the highest. So for brain, since it's a body, chemicals can do that. For mind, it is subtle. So it requires something more. For the intellect, it is the subtlest. So that is why. Like food doesn't affect the mind. So it's something like food affects the body, but yes, so gross.
Okay. All right, somewhere around it. Just give me the, yeah, sort of there.
Was Janki ji, that the brain, when you're happy, when you're living the right life, when you're doing the right thing, your brain actually does produce. When you go and help somebody, or when you laugh or you're happy. So your physical actions actually do produce the hormones that then make your they do produce the same chemical things as when you're mentally ill. It's due to a brain imbalance. Your happiness also is due to a balanced brain. Is to the right chemicals being produced due to right.
Yeah, you're all right, but please answer her question.
No, but
a question, she's not asking that. She knows that. Everybody knows, I think, that when you
by learning philosophy, by your teaching, I'm getting a feeling of, let's say, elation or understanding. That philosophy is my physics, the satisfaction I'm getting from this class is actually leading to my brain, my intellect being in a state.
Yes, we know that. I mean, that is known. That's a well-established fact. There is no doubt that whenever your mind is happy, your brain will release the chemicals. Well known. Your mind is upset, other things will be released. You will be, your heart pressure will start beating hard and all that. Well known. How mind affects body, well known. The question is not that.
I thought she's asking philosophy. Why are we doing philosophy instead?
No. The question is not why are we doing philosophy. Okay. Her question is, if you are accepting, I added that just to explain the question. The point is, we are not discussing why are we studying philosophy. We are not studying on this basis. The point is, if you say that the illness was caused by the chemical, then it must follow that the wellness is also followed by the chemical. That is her. That is the dichotomy she sees. Okay, so let me just answer it. Otherwise, we're never going to go any further. And also, I'm going to forget the answer very soon. The Elsie, where are you? Are you still there? Yeah. Okay, Elsie. There are. Yeah, put on the thing. That's good. Then I can talk to you. There are two principles. There are two issues involved. Okay. One is we have to distinguish between these two. One is a cause and effect relationship, and two is a conducive environment. Okay. They're two separate things. Okay. A seed, a mango seed, produces a mango tree. Okay. The soil is a conducive environment. Okay. Right? You could have the world's best soil, you will still not have a mango tree unless you have a mango seed. Okay. So there is a cause and effect relationship, and there is a conducive environment. Okay. Okay. So when you give yourself chemicals in your brain, you will give yourself a conducive environment. Okay. All right. For whatever happiness is within you to manifest itself. Okay. All right. Okay. This is different from having great happiness within yourself, because it cannot manifest. How does it manifest otherwise? Okay. Okay. So there are two different things. If you have the happiness within yourself, it will affect your body. The chemicals will be released. What is that? Serotonin and all the stuff. All that we've all read so much about. All of it gets released into your system, and then the scientists will measure it, and they'll say there's serotonin here, and there are what are all the happy chemicals. All the happy chemicals are there, and so you're a very happy person. But the deal is that happiness has come to your mind, affected the brain, and then release the chemical. Now you can do the opposite also. You can put that chemical in, or whatever it is they do, put drugs or whatever, methane or ganja or something you put in, and then you will feel nice. Or a very simple example is you take alcohol. Okay, a lot of people take alcohol and then they feel nice. So they go see a movie and then they feel nice. But their happiness that they are able to acquire out of that will be limited by what happiness they have in their mind as it is. Okay. They cannot acquire more than that, or they can get this sudden sort of jerk up. Okay. So when you want to have a steady state of happiness, the mind must grow into that. Then you have a steady state. Okay, so basically, theoretically, the answer is distinguish between cause and effect.
Okay.
The greater the desires, the less the mind is capable of happiness.
Okay.
Cause and effect.
Okay.
And conducive environment is now everything is going on very well around you, so you will feel happy.
Definitely.
If it starts going bad, you will feel bad, whether it's
Okay.
in the brain itself or whether it's in the environment. Same thing works. Got it?
Okay. Okay. I will listen to it once again and then imbibe it. Replay it. Okay.
Yeah, you can bring it up. I don't know why you're like not letting me continue today.
Thank you, Janki.
Yes, doing exercise also. All these things will send out all those chemicals. Exercise, being with your friends. So that's why people tell you, if you want to be happy, do your exercise, be with your friends. I don't know. They give you all this, yeah, and have a bath, all that. They're so right and they're so wrong. I mean, of course, you will get all those things happening, but that's not the way to do it. These are false and artificial methods. And since they are methods external to yourself, as long as your friends are being sweet to you, you are very happy. And then you get even a little closer, and all hell breaks loose. Haven't you seen that? Haven't your friends become cause of your stress? Hasn't your sports become cause of stress? Hasn't, I don't know, every single thing in the world become a cause of stress? It's so difficult to understand the concept. That's why we are where we are. Okay, all I wanted to say today before
Janki
going,
ji,
Bharat,
sorry.
Bharat, you cannot ask a question. You're the one who's always saying, how can you take so many questions? Bolo, Bharat.
Now that it's all gone, I might as well take the answer.
Go ahead.
A highly agitated person in very difficult circumstances might not even register the happy chemicals of drugs taken. Is that what we're saying?
I don't know that. I haven't tried, Bharat. Neither of those two are known to me, so I can't answer. But no, you can see, happiness is not something really. Happiness is the absence. So if I'm miserable, and if I can put something into my brain, I'm teaching you all the wrong things today. If I'm really miserable and I put something into my brain to prevent me from feeling that misery, that's called happiness. There is no thing happiness. There is only agitation and absence of it. So anything that cuts out my agitation, it numbs me. That's what they do, no? When people get into this bipolar thing, when the person goes into from depression to elation. But elation is so high, their confidence is high, their elation is high, and I'm like, wow, they think they conquer the world. You know, they're top of the world, as it were. But so they give them a chemical to cut it out, right? So agitation is what we all experience. Removal of that agitation. Why do people take a drink? Because it's so agitated. And then you take the drink, and what does it do to you? It numbs you, it makes you incapable of feeling. And that's why. What do people do with their agitations? Every one of us is agitated. What do we do with it? We numb it. We numb it with reading a book. We numb it with seeing a movie. We numb it by having a meal. You know how many people are fat because every time they feel agitated, they go eat something? We numb it all the time. We you know, like you put food into your body, so you're taking it away, right? You're taking the blood flow away from whatever was bugging you into this now. So it's a really sad thing, and that's how we manage. And if you remember, that's what the poem said, the toys. With what toys we made our joys. You remember that little boy had collected around himself copper bells and some useless coins and some glass abraded by the beach to comfort his sad heart. Remember? Thou rememberest of what toys we made our joys, how we got our happiness, out of what kind of foolish, childish things. Except that it is so childish that you can't even call it foolish now. It's so childish. Just numb yourself to the pain until you can no more feel your pain. You cannot feel your pain and you cannot feel anybody else's pain. It's very, very different from being a mature, grown person who's capable of feeling joy and sorrow, your own, and therefore other people's as well. So how much you will unfurl within yourself basically will be what capacity is science going to find to numb it for how long. We can do it ourselves, right? We can do it ourselves. Read a book, go for a jog, and do it ourselves, or put a chemical. All of them are in the same category. So mind and intellect plays a greater role in our wellness? No, it's not that it plays a greater role. It is our wellness or absence of it. It is whatever is the condition of the mind and intellect is the wellness or lack of it. How do we rise above the happy hormones and allow the mind and intellect to take care of the mind, soul, and body connection? By studying what you're learning in Vedanta. Okay, so that's it for today. Hari Om.
Thank you so much.